When I was 4 years old, my father died. And I saw my mother crying, my sisters crying, and my father not moving, not talking to me. So I was very puzzled. So I asked my mother, "Why are you crying, Mummy? Why father is not talking to me?" So my mother said, "Your daddy is dead. He's never going to speak to you again." And I didn't understand what death meant. So I said, "What do you mean? What is death?" She said, "Everybody dies. So will you die, Mummy, and then never speak to me?" "Yes." "And will I die?" "Yes." And that made me so unhappy. I was so shocked that I became very melancholic. I would never go out to play with children or do anything. And my mother always used to say, "Why are you so sad? Go and play with children. Climb the tree." But I wouldn't do it. And my mother used to go to our teachers, Jain monks. And so one day I asked these monks, "My daddy is dead." And my mother says she will be dead. And she says that I will be dead. Is there any way we can stop this dreadful death? And so the monks said, the only way to stop the cycle of birth and death is to give up the world and take on the monastic order. And I was so sad to know about death and so shocked with my father's death. I said, I'll do anything to stop death coming. And so at age 9, I left home. I left my mother and I left the world, so to speak, and became a monk. And that's how I began my life. Thank you. Om is what we call seed mantra, bija mantra. Mantra means mindfulness, bringing your mind to focus in the present moment, in the here and now. Man means mind, tra means sort of liberation through mind. So by the focusing of mind and by being mindful of everything that you are doing, every thought that you are thinking, every word that you are speaking, what is going on around you in this moment, here and now, then you are mindful. And then everything you do becomes a mantra. There's another word in Sanskrit language, and that is tantra. And tan means body. So focusing on your physical activity is tantra. And when you can transform your physical activity by putting your love, your generosity, a sense of beauty, a sense of unity, then your action has become a tantric action. So being in the present moment, mentally and physically, is the combination, like walking on two legs. You have to combine mantra with tantra. Just mantra is not enough, and tantra is not enough. We have to do two together. And so Om is the mantra, and Shanti is the tantra. So Om means expanding your mind, your consciousness, your awareness to include everything. So in the same way, all sound, all languages, particularly the Sanskrit language, they come from this one seed mantra, Om. So in this mantra, you expand your mind and bring your consciousness to the present moment and connect with everything and realize that you are connected with the whole universe. You are a microcosm of macrocosm. There's nothing in the universe which is not in you, and there's nothing in you which is not in the universe. You are made of the universe. So our secondary identities, like I'm an Australian, I'm an Indian, I'm an American, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Christian, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, all these secondary identities are truly secondary. The primary identity is that you are the universe. The moment you expand that identity, your true identity, then you are connected and not isolated, not separated. Our Western philosophy has separated us from everything. We think I am just separate individual. I think, therefore I am. That is the kind of Western scientific rationalism, Cartesian dualism, where mind and matter are separate, where individual and community are separate, when country to country are separate. Everything is separated. Whereas in Indian philosophy of wholeness and implicate order, we say everything is connected. And even when you have a skin of your body giving you individuality, individual means indivisible, not separate. The language is very good, even English language. Individual means indivisible. But we have somehow created a new meaning, an illusory meaning. The individual means I'm a separate individual. But I'm not. This skin is only, this body is only here to connect with the other bodies. This body is here only to connect with the earth. This body is here so that I can hug somebody else. My arms are there. My lips are there. I can kiss somebody. So they are not to separate me from the other, but to connect me with the other, unite me with the other. In Indian language, we call it soham, which I have translated as you are, therefore I am. One day, one of the disciples of Jain monks, because I was a monk, one of my disciples came to me and said, the kind of ideas you are talking about are very similar to the ideas of Mahatma Gandhi. Have you heard of Mahatma Gandhi? Have you read anything by Mahatma Gandhi? I said, I've heard of him, but I've never read anything. And I was 18 years old. So this disciple brought a book. It was autobiography of Mahatma Gandhi. And I read it. And in it, Mahatma Gandhi made the point that spirituality is not only for the saints. Spirituality is for everybody. And therefore a few people giving up the world, forsaking the world, and joining the monastic order, and other people thinking that they cannot practice spirituality without becoming a monk, is not right. We have to transform our ordinary life, everyday life, into spiritual life. Now, by the time I was 18, the shock of my father's death was not so strong. And this idea of Mahatma Gandhi, that the spirituality is not just a personal matter, but it's a social matter, it's a political matter, it's an economic matter, really inspired me. And I was so unsettled that day reading Gandhi's autobiography that I could not sleep at night. I was turning and tossing and turning and worrying. But once you become a monk, the rule is that you are a monk forever, for life. And I could not be comfortable after reading that book. So in the end, I decided to give up the monastic order and join a Gandhian community, an ashram. And there I learned that everything you do, if you do with spiritual intention, which means you do it with love, with care, with respect, with reverence, then anything you do is spiritual. So whether it's gardening, or cooking, or running a business, or running a politics, whatever you do is spiritual. It depends on your intention. What is the purpose behind your action? So I lived in the Gandhian ashram and tried to bring spirituality into everyday, ordinary, day-to-day activity. So that was my second turning point. Yeah. We will need 6 planets. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I have bad news for you. We haven't got 6 planets. We have got only 1 planet. So we had to be wise enough, intelligent enough, clever enough to design a market economy, design a trading economy, design a business system, design a system which will feed 6 billion people and sustain the earth, not for 10 years, not for 100 years, not for 1,000 years, for millions of years to come, like your Aboriginal ancestors did. So we have to be now clever in 21st century. That is our creative challenge. This is not a crisis. For me, it's not a crisis. It's an opportunity. It's a great opportunity for business to come forward with some creative, wonderful new ideas and new ways and new systems. And human beings are very clever. We are very ingenious. It's not an impossible task for us. We can reach the moon. We can create nuclear weapons which can destroy the whole earth, not once, not twice, not 10 times, not 20 times, but 50 times over. So there is no shortage of cleverness among humans. Only using that cleverness to sustain the planet Earth. The 20th century has been the century of economy. 20th century has been the century of not even enough economy, but more a century of money. Now money comes in my hierarchy of values at a 3rd level. Ecology, economy, and money. But the 20th century has turned that hierarchy upside down. And we have put money at the top, then economy, and then ecology. And ecology to serve economy, and economy to serve money. So ecology serving economy, economy serving money. So money at the top, the ruling, dominating, dictating paradigm. Everything at the service of money. As long as you are making money, doesn't matter what else happens. That has been the paradigm of the 20th century. Financial paradigm. To subjugate, to dominate, to exploit, to destroy, then you are using your money, which is such a good tool such a good invention into destroying our ecology and creating global warming. And you are using your money to control so that nobody can eat food, those who do not have money. If you look in the ecology, in the natural world, apart from human beings, which species go hungry to bed at night? Do the tigers go hungry to bed? The elephants go hungry? Snakes? Your wallabies, do they go hungry? They don't have money. They don't have Monsanto to produce their food. They don't have supermarkets. They don't go hungry. What system they have? There are 300 million species upon this earth. Only human beings are forced to go hungry without food to bed. Only one species. All the rest of the species don't go hungry. They are watered, they are sheltered, they are looked after without any need for a credit card. So the 20th century was the century of ownership, where we own and we commodify. Now 21st century will ask you to extend your bottom line. Finance is necessary, of course. Money is part of the picture, of course. Money is means to an end, of course. But there are other sustainability issues because we have hit upon a brick wall. We have hit upon a wall because we, for example, all our businesses, food, transportation, clothing, building, heating, lighting, all our lifestyle became dependent on one source of energy. And that's fossil fuel. One source alone we need. Everything else is not important. Sun, don't worry about it. Water, or don't mind water. Who cares for water? Wind, oh, we don't need it. Close the windows. We will have air conditioning. Close the doors and windows and so on. We will have electric light. Sun, wind, water, air, we don't need them. We can artificially create them as long as you have fossil fuel. Nature has its own quality, its own spirit, its own living quality. Trees are living entity. The earth is a living entity, Gaia. That's a scientific theory, Gaia. Gaia means living earth, living organism. So love of life, love of the earth, love of people, love of community, love of forest, love of rivers, that's a spiritual quality. That love. We don't want to change our system driven by fear. Fear of oil running out. And therefore we will change. What kind of change is that? There's no creativity there. There's no human spirit there. So I don't want environmentalism to be driven by fear of the end of civilization. This doom and gloom scenario should be yesterday's story. I am not here doom and gloom preacher. I want inspirational environmentalism as a challenge, as an opportunity to do something and live in a better way than we have lived in 20th century. My third turning point was when I was 25. One day, with my friend, I went to have breakfast in a cafe. And as I ordered the coffee, I picked up the newspaper. And as I opened the newspaper, suddenly my eyes were drawn to a photograph and a piece of news. It was a photograph of a very famous man, Nobel Prize winning, mathematician, scientist, and a peacemaker called Bertrand Russell. And the news was that Bertrand Russell was arrested because he was protesting against the nuclear weapons. And because he was protesting and committing civil disobedience, he was sentenced to imprisonment. When I read this news, I said to my friend, look, Menon, my friend's name was Menon, look, Menon, Here is a man of 90 going to jail for peace in the world. What are we doing, young men, sitting here drinking coffee? What shouldn't we be doing something for peace in the world? And so that day, we talked and talked and talked for hours. And in the end, we decided that let us join the international peace movement and the work of Bertrand Russell by walking to Moscow, Paris, London, and Washington, D.C. Because at that time, these were the 4 nuclear capitals. So we'll walk to these 4 nuclear capitals and protest against the bomb. And walking was important. Because if we go by train or plane or car, nobody will take any notice. But if we are making a witness by our own body, what they say, walking your talk, literally walking, then it will make some impression. People will be interested in our human story of walking. And so we felt very happy. And that was one of the big turning points that brought me into the world, to experience the world, touch the earth. So I walked from the grave of Mahatma Gandhi through Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, what was Soviet Union at that time, to Moscow, and then through Eastern Europe, to Western Europe, to Paris. And then of course we had to take a little boat to cross the English Channel. But up to then there was no channel, no water. And then we walked from Dover to London and we met Bertrand Russell. And he helped to get the ticket to cross the Atlantic. So we sailed across the Atlantic and came to New York, and we walked to Washington, D.C. And we ended at the grave of John F. Kennedy. So from the grave of Gandhi to grave of Kennedy, 8,000 miles we walked, inspired by an old man of 90, Bertrand Russell. So that was my another turning point in life. Thank you. What a good idea. You want to walk for peace in the world. Good idea. And then for a minute he thought. And then he said, how much money are you going to take with you? So I said, we don't know, but we'll have some money. We are raising some money and saving some money. We have a little more saving. He said, I have a piece of advice for you. And my piece of advice is, go without any money in your pockets. I was surprised. I said, not any money? You mean any money? Sometimes we might need a cup of tea. Sometimes we might have to make a telephone call. He said, not any money. When you are going for peace, the root of peace is trust. And the root of war is fear. When you have no money, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust people. You have to trust God. You have to trust the process of the universe. Something will happen. You will be a walking example of peace. And when you have money, you walk all day, you arrive in a village or town or city, you are tired, you are exhausted, you are hungry, you go to a restaurant to eat, you go to a guest house to sleep, and you walk away. Okay, you've done some walk, but that's not enough. But when you have no money, you will be forced to find someone to give you hospitality. Some kind person. And even if you don't get hospitality, you will have great experience. And that was true. And so, now Vinoba was our guru. And in Indian tradition, if you have a guru, then you have to accept his advice. You can't have guru, just you take the advice which you like and advice you don't like, you say, no, I'm not going to do this. So we said, Vinoba, you are our guru. You are our teacher, and whatever you say. So we gave all our money away, unburdened, and started our journey from the grave of Mahatma Gandhi. And we walked through India the first month, and after 1 month, we arrived at the border of India and Pakistan. And that was the last day for us in India. So our friends, our colleagues, our family members, they all came to say goodbye. And one of my very, very close friends came to me and said, Satish, aren't you crazy? You are going to Pakistan, our enemy. We had 3 wars between India and Pakistan. And you are going there without money, without food, walking. At least you take some food with you. And I brought some packets of food. Here it is. At least for a few days, while you are looking for some contacts and some people who can look after you, you have something to sustain you. I looked at these packets. And I said to my friend, I cannot take them. These packets of food are not packets of food. They are packets of mistrust. What am I going to say to my Pakistani host if I meet any? That I didn't trust you whether you would feed me or not, so I have brought my own food all the way from India. That's not what Vinoba meant when he said go without money. He said go with trust. And my friend was in tears, crying. I said, why are you crying? He said, Satish, I don't know if I will ever see you again. You are going to these Muslim countries, Christian countries, communist countries, and you have no money, you have no food. How are you going to survive? I think you are completely crazy. I said, don't cry. If I die walking for peace, that's the best kind of death. Such death is welcome. If I don't come back, don't worry, I won't notice it. He gave me a big hug. And I left him there. And I said goodbye to all my friends, all my colleagues, and walked into Pakistan. And a miracle happened. Miracles can happen when you have no money. Because you have money, you have already, everything is planned, hotels are booked, guides are booked, taxis are booked. There is no chance for any miracle to happen. But when you have no money, some miracle can happen. And it happened. The moment we entered in Pakistan, within few minutes, I heard somebody calling my name and my friend's name. And we were very surprised. We said, we don't know anybody in Pakistan. We have no contact, no address, we have written to nobody, and here you are, you know our name? And he said, yes, I've been looking for you. I've been looking for you. I came yesterday looking for you. I came day before yesterday looking for you. I read about you somewhere in the newspaper. Like we read about Bertrand Russell, he read about us. And I thought, I'm for peace. All this war between India and Pakistan is total nonsense. We are one people. How can we go on fighting like this? We have to live next to each other. We are neighbors. So I thought, I'll come and meet you. So please come to my home. Be my guest. Meet my friends. Can you imagine that moment of surprise? 5 minutes ago, my friend, dear friend, was saying that you are going to an enemy country. And here is my enemy. He said, please come to my home and be my guest. I said to my friend that our primary identity, if we come here with our secondary identities, like if we come here as Indians, we meet Pakistanis. If we come here as Hindus, we meet Muslims. But if we come here as human beings, we meet human beings. So from today, we are not going to come to any country as Hindus or Jains or Indians or this or that. Those are shorthand. convenient things to identify. But the real identity for peace has to be, we are human beings, we are living beings, we are universal beings. So that is the example. And then walking through Pakistan and Afghanistan and Iran and the Soviet Union. And sometimes we didn't get any food. And when we didn't get any food, we said, this is our opportunity to fast. No complaints. And when we walked in deserts and no village and no shelter, this is our opportunity to sleep under the stars. And that way we carried on. And we arrived in Moscow, and we arrived in Paris, and we arrived in London, and met Bertrand Russell. And he helped us to cross the Atlantic. And so we sailed across the Atlantic in the boat called Queen Mary. And we arrived in New York and walked to Washington, D.C. and ended our journey at the grave of Kennedy. So from grave of Gandhi to grave of Kennedy, 8,000 miles we walked to make the point that if you trust the gun, if you have faith in the gun does not kill just a bad guy, a bad person. The gun can also kill a Gandhi, a John F. Kennedy. And so you have to remove your faith from the gun, and you have to put your faith in peaceful, non-violent conflict resolution. Any kind of conflict, personal conflict, social conflict, national conflict, international conflict, religious conflict, all conflicts must be resolved by non-violent means. That was the symbol of grave to grave. Non-violence comes first in our Indian thinking. Even truth is not first. Non-violence first, truth second, truth later. Your truth may be different from my truth. We are seeking truth. We don't know. Today's truth might be different than tomorrow's truth. We are seekers. We are looking for the truth. We don't know. We cannot be 100% sure of what the truth is. We are always searching. I cannot say, I know the truth, I don't want to impose on everybody else. This is my truth. That is not right. So truth comes later. Non-violence comes first. If all the world practices non-violence, peaceful conflict resolution, then it doesn't matter if there are thousands of truths. It's better to have thousands of truths than one truth. Like unity of life manifesting in millions of forms. One great truth can manifest in millions of ways. And therefore, there's no need to quarrel and fight about truths. Just live in harmony with each other, doing no harm to others. The earth is, therefore I am. My ancestors were, therefore I am. I will not exist if I was not there at the beginning of the times. The first Big Bang, if you believe in Big Bang, I was there in my genes, in my potential. So I am there from the beginning, and I'll be here. And you will be here. Every one of us will be here. Nothing can disexist which exists. So when you die, that's not the end of your life. It's only a passage through. You are transforming yourself into some new form. So the form changes, but the existence remains. And so you will be here for millions of years to come. Therefore, we have to create a sustainable society, not for 10 years or 100 years or 1,000 years, but millions of years to come, for eternity. So whatever we make, whatever we do, whatever we think, whatever we design, we have to think of sustainability in millions of years to come. So that is the meaning of Om. But then there's a tantra, there's a technique. How do you live in the world? And Shanti means peace. Shanti word in Sanskrit means peace. So by making peace physically, practically, pragmatically, every day, with the earth, with the other human beings, and with yourself. Unless you can make with yourself, you cannot make peace with the world. This is why I say Shanti 3 times. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. First time when you say Shanti, you say, I make peace with myself. Quite often, we are at war against ourselves. We do not accept ourselves who we are. We always want to be somebody else. There's always a feeling of inferiority. There's a feeling of inadequacy. There's a feeling of anguish, anxiety. Something is not right, fear. And if you are in that state, you have not made peace with yourself. The moment you realize that you are good as you are, there is nothing to change. There is nothing to achieve. There is nowhere to go. You are already there, unfolding with the process of the universe, in harmony with the natural world, like an acorn unfolding into an oak tree. Every human being is unfolding into a self-realized universal being. That is your self-realization. And when you are able to accept yourself as you are, then you have made peace with yourself. And making peace with yourself, meaning accepting yourself and taking care of yourself, and even, I would say, that loving yourself. If you don't love yourself, how can you love others? If you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of others? If you are not healthy in your own health, how are you going to look after the sick and the elderly and the needy? So you need to take care of yourself and be healthy, well, happy, joyful, blissful. So loving yourself is not selfish. Sometimes people think, oh, I should not be selfish. I should not take time for myself. I should always give, give, give. If you give, give, give without taking care of yourself, soon you will have a problem of burnout. And then what will you do? You will not be able to take care of anybody else. So in order to avoid that burnout, you have to take care of yourself and make peace with yourself. How can you expect somebody else to love you if even you yourself don't love yourself? And so loving yourself is nothing to do with ego. Ego is a very different thing. That ego and arrogance and pride, those are different things. Love means accepting. When you say, I have fallen in love with somebody, what does it mean? I'm in love. What does it mean? It means that I accept you as you are. I don't love you because you are educated or uneducated or young or old or black or white or whatever you are. I love you as you are without any judgment. I mean, you say, I love this tree. What does it mean? You accept that tree as it is. Love does not mean being goody-good or wishy-washy or flaky. That is not love. Love is an unconditional caring, unconditional acceptance of the other as the other is. The moment you can accept yourself as you are, you have a good beginning to accept others as they are. So first peace is making peace with yourself and recognizing yourself, who you are, your primary identity. And then you make peace with your fellow human beings. You make peace with your family. You make peace with your parents, with your husbands, your wives, your children, your neighbors, everybody who is around you. And you make peace with nations and religions. And you make peace with countries, everybody you make peace with. Because you accept the diversity of life. So we have to find a way of making peace and resolving conflicts non-violently and peacefully in the world. Every country has so much money and so much power and so much wealth and so much talent and so much science and so much technology and so much research in military. How much money, how much research, how much talent, how much work we are putting in peace? Very little. Every country has military academies. Which country has peace academy, training people how to resolve conflicts non-violently? We spend no effort. We think that military and the weapons will solve all problems. So, second time when we say peace, we make peace with all humanity. But that is not enough. that is not enough. We have to make peace with nature. We have to make peace with the earth. That's where sustainability comes in. At the moment, we are at war against nature. The way we treat animals in our factory farms, in the way we treat our chickens and pigs and cows, the way we treat the land with chemical fertilizers, pesticide, herbicide, fungicide, all side, suicide. What are we doing to the land? When we say, this is my land, this ownership, idea of ownership is violence. The moment you say, I own nature, the moment you say, I own the forest, I own the rivers, I own the fishing, who are you to own? Land does not belong to us. We belong to the land. Nature does not belong to us. We are nature and we belong to nature. That sense of belonging is lost when you create idea of ownership. Once upon a time, we used to measure somebody's wealth in terms of how many slaves that person owned. How many slaves? You say, oh, you are a very rich person because you own 50 slaves. The other person, no, but I'm richer. I have 100 slaves. But now we have got rid of that idea. We don't think that you can own slaves. The ownership of slaves is not acceptable. We have moved from ownership to relationship with human beings. All human beings, we are related to each other. Even when we fight wars, still we don't go for slavery. Once upon a time, even to our shame, even it was thought that men owned women. When they married, the wife was my property. There was that consciousness. Now it's changing. We are in the age of feminist revolution. And we are in the age of understanding that all men and women are equal. But still, we think that we own nature. And I think that we have to move. And we have to say, we do not own nature. There's no ownership there, only relationship. We are related to nature. And when you can change your paradigm, when your consciousness, your worldview from ownership to relationship, then you are in the sphere of peace. As long as you have ownership, then you can do what you like with your slaves. You can do what you like with your forest. You can do what you like with your land. Because you own it. It's for you. The utilitarian ecology is no good. Utilitarian view of nature is no good if you want peace in the world. The same mentality which can destroy nature and control nature and own nature, same mentality, same mindset can go and fight wars and try to control human beings and try to control nations and countries and cultures. It's the same mentality. So we have to say that we are not owners. There is no ownership of nature, only relationship with nature. The moment you are in the relationship mode, there is a respect. There's a reverence for life. There's a reverence for nature. Trees, you are wonderful as you are. The intrinsic value you accept in nature. The intrinsic value, not valuing nature for its usefulness to humans. That's a kind of utilitarian view, that nature is good only in terms of how useful it is for humankind. As if we are the masters of the earth. We are the in charge. We are the kind of superior race, superior species, all other species for us, for our use, for our benefit. We can eat them, we can kill them, we can destroy them, we can pollute them, we can do what we like. That mentality has to change fundamentally if you really want to create a sustainable worldview and a sustainable future. Just as tweaking with a little bit of solar energy and a little bit of water harvesting is good, but not good enough. You have to change your fundamental view of the world. And that fundamental view of the world is that we are nature. The word nature means birth and death. When you say the Aboriginal people are the native people, what does it mean? They are born here. When you are a pregnant mother and you go to midwife for prenatal check or postnatal check after the birth, what does natal word mean? Meaning birth.
Pre-birth, after birth. So native, natal, nation. You say, I'm a national of Australia. This is my nation, meaning I'm born here. That's a nation. So nature, nation, native, natal, all come from the same root. So we are nature. Nature is not out there. Trees and forests and rivers and mountains and animals and the birds are nature. And we are the bosses. We are the kind of in charge, the masters, taking care of nature. This is not the worldview of peace. The worldview of peace is to accept nature as one, and we are part of it, and we live in harmony, we live in balance, we live in relationship with nature. So the moment you have that worldview, then you are able to make peace with nature. Set new examples, because university is so big. Maybe it will be a long time before you can move this juggernaut towards sustainability. Still we are brainwashing thousands upon thousands of young children in schools, in universities, and the students and young people in universities to think in terms of education for what? Education to get a good job. Education so that you can succeed in the world. Education you can make more money. That's not the purpose of education. The purpose of education is something greater. But that's not happening. Even though there's a big, we are hitting big brick wall, and we are faced with big problems of global warming, resource depletion, pollution, oil, peak oil, so many problems we are faced with. And still we are going on and on and on, teaching our children as if there is no change necessary. So we have to bring some radical change in university and schools. But that will take some time. It will take some action. So in the meantime, we need to set some alternative models, alternative examples. Like we have started small school in the UK, and we have started Schumacher College. We need a Schumacher College in Australia, where people can go for 1 week, for 10 days, for 5 or 6 weekends every year, or go there, experience a permaculture lifestyle, experience an organic way of living, experience that non-consumerist, wholesome lifestyle is joyful, poetic, artistic. We have to set an example. At the moment we say, oh, you talk about organic, what does that mean? Oh, that means going backward, going back, turning the clock back. No, it's going forward. Or turning to a more right and kind of useful and satisfactory lifestyle. So we need to create such examples in Australia, in the United States, in Malaysia, Indonesia, China, India, every country. So that's another thing we have to do. So environmental movement, peace movement, sustainability movement has a great challenge in front of us. We cannot just sit back and say why universities are not changing. We cannot say why governments are not changing. We cannot say why business are not changing. It is better to light a candle than curse the darkness. No good saying governments are bad, business are bad, the universities are bad, everybody's bad, why aren't they changing? We have to do something to bring about that change. So we are faced with a great opportunity. We have a great opportunity in front of us, great challenge. We have to show our creativity, our ingenuity, our imagination, our action, our energy, our power to change the world. Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, Dalai Lama. They have great examples to follow. And you are all one of those. Mahatma Gandhi was not a special kind of person. He was like you and I. Nelson Mandela was not a special kind of person. He was you and I. Once a Sri Lankan philosopher called Ananda Kumaraswamy, he said, an artist is not a special kind of person, but every person is a special kind of artist. So every one of us have potential to do big changes. We have to be inspired, and we have to go out and live our lives sustainably and communicate it. And then I think in the next 10 years, we can create a new world. Let's be optimistic. I know being a pessimist is fashionable. Book after book you read, full of pessimism. News after news, everyday newspaper, full of pessimism. I think the environmental movement has to come up with saying being an optimist is cool. we can change the world.